Okay, this is just going to be a little video tour. What we've done to the house. Well, the property more. You can kind of see we put some new rocks down in the driveway. And that looks pretty nice. And there was an area that was really sloped and had grass and was hard to mow and just didn't really do much. I put a little parking pad in here. You can see I built up a little wall. And then there's my fence, obviously. And then along that fence, I built a retaining wall and started making I'd call it an ornamental garden area, but it's also going to have a lot of herbs in it and fun medicinal plants and just really pretty plants. And so that wall is about almost 20 inches high, butted up against the fence, put into the ground with rebar. And there's probably about 20,000 pounds of dirt in here, a little more than that actually. And I got some on clearance flagstone, 13 cents a pound for the flagstone. And I built a little stone path through here and mounded up some dirt and put some little features in. Little path comes to here, circles around. You can kind of see the wall again. Here's more of it. The path. What I believe to be a now dead blood-good maple tree, one of those Japanese maples. This is its third move, so I think we need to replace it with something else. But this will be a fun area now instead of just an eyesore. Turn around. Get a little lower. You can sort of see the little mounds. I'm going to top them off with some dirt today. I can't wait to take another video with all of the plants growing in here. It's going to be really nice. Yeah, so that was cool. Made this little area. It's got some bulbs coming up in it. Expanded that. And then not a whole lot has changed. Up here in front of the house, but we'll go here anyway. You know, this is like more again of an ornamental garden. And then got my garlic growing there, a couple cauliflowers. And then this is all ready to plant. Up here is going to be all medicinal herbs for harvesting for use in the our teas and various things. I built this shed last summer since I had all the time off. This is my little garden shed. So this is pretty cool. Able to keep some stuff out of the rain. It's pretty big. Holds a bunch of equipment. And then it's Al's hideout. Keep out. Another view of the garden. House. It's always a lot of clutter right at this time of year because I'm moving plants in and out, and we're both trying to get everything ready for the spring planting. And then cruising over here. Not a lot has changed in the goat area, but I did build this used to be a tarp over some of this goat stuff. And I really wanted the goats to have a good winter out of the rain area, so I built this big old 24-foot long, 12-foot wide shelter so the goats can have a nice area that's dry year round, which is cool, and shady for the summer when it's real hot. And there's some chickens, so that's pretty cool. There's Vern. Vernie baby, say hi, Vernie. And then just a few months back, I built this platform here as a rain catchment system to water the front garden that I just showed you. So it's right up, butted up against the fence. It'll be gravity fed. It holds, coincidentally, 420 gallons of water. And they're all full. They filled up a couple of rainstorms, and then the excess leaks off through this little drainage hose here. I won't bore you with that part, but they're all 100% full and ready to water the garden. And then we'll go through the chicken area real quick. There's Penny. Penny's eating some hay. I gotta do some cleanup in here. There's always 100 things to do, I'll say that. Seems like you never really, there's no such thing as getting ahead of it. It's not, there's a lot of physical work that has to be done. Here's some hay that I've been putting down in the garden. This is my back garden, which used to stop at this bed with a fence, and then I moved the fence and doubled the size. So I have this whole patch here that I'm getting ready to, in the next week or two, build another row of beds. And so that's pretty exciting. You know, it's exciting, but it also means more work all the time, but you know, I like to do it. So here's it. I added a couple little squares in here just recently. That's going to have strawberries in it. And coming through here, here's our little, I'm going to grow beans on this, so we'll have a nice little bean walkway area thing. Come over here. This is my asparagus bed. I don't see any sprouts yet. This is all asparagus. There's 25 crowns, they call them, in there. I planted them last year, so we'll get a tiny crop this year, and then next year we'll get a little bit more, and from there on out I should get several, pounds of asparagus to eat. For, they said 30 years you can have an asparagus bed, or longer if you take care of it. So pretty soon I'm expecting poundage of asparagus. Another little square. This is nice and fluffy. This will have beets and carrots in it, I think. And then coming this way, I built this a couple days ago. This is the temporary greenhouse. I know it looks a little goofy, but again, it is temporary. I just needed a place to put all my plant starts as I move them from the inside to the outside. And I had this material for building little greenhouses over these beds, and I realized if I put it all together, it took me a little while to figure it out, I could make it a larger greenhouse. So it's 6 feet by 8 feet, and and it got a little ravaged by the windstorm yesterday, so I'm gonna shore it up today. But it's really nice. It's about this morning when it was 36 degrees, I came in here and it was 50 degrees. So right now it's actually reading 80, and you got this little rechargeable battery powered fan in here circulating there. I'll probably open it up a little bit, but so that's pretty cool. And there's going to be a lot of space. I'm going to get hundreds of plants out here. I got some onions that I already planted a bunch, so these are extra, actually, believe it or not, a couple hundred onions. And then here's some echinacea I moved out here yesterday. This is the first plants to come out here. It was really cold last night, and it did get really cold in here, and so I might be a little early. I probably need to wait another week before I move, really in earnest, move stuff out here. But anyway, it's just a little temporary structure. Where it stands now is going to be a pumpkin patch in a couple of months. So we'll back up from that. And this is potatoes in there, already planted. I do a mixture of straw, a lot of straw and a little bit of dirt, because they like the fluff. They can grow, you can grow bigger and more tubers apparently in fluff, and I had a lot of success last year in a different bed doing that, so I'm gonna try again this year. And then I also just planted this whole row of blueberry bushes. So it's mostly blueberry and some elderberry on the end. So I've got 8 blueberry bushes along here. One of which might be dead, so we'll have to replace that. And these two on the end are elderberry, so it'll be cool. A couple of years, stuff's a couple of years out from real production or anything, but we should be able to start making some elderberry syrup and doing other flavorings with the elderberry, which will be fun to experiment with. This used to be my fire pit that I moved when I expanded the garden, and it's a little bit messy now because the chickens were messing around on it, but this is going to be an experimental hugelkultur garden, and that's a method of permaculture that people are using now. Some people say that it's thousands of years old. Other people say that it started with this dude in the 60s, but it's proven effective at growing plants and really popular. And the basic gist of it is, underneath all this is wood, rotting wood that you can either get out of the woods in the back, or I got them off my apple tree when I did all my prunings. And so you put large pieces of wood and then some organic material and some dirt, and then you put smaller pieces of wood and more organic material, compost, whatever, dirt, and then finally maybe some twigs, and then a lot more of organic material, and top it with a good pile of dirt. And so what supposedly happens is, you create this environment underneath there where all this fungi is growing and composting is happening, and microorganisms are moving around trying to eat, decay all the material you put in there. And the wood is big enough that it takes years to decompose, but what it does is it holds moisture and releases it very slowly over time. So with all the rain we get here in the Northwest, we're going to get that wood super soaked over the winter. And then when you plant in something like this, some people have claimed they've planted stuff in like much larger rows of these mounds like this, and not had to water at all. So I'm not sure how true that is, or will be for us anyway, but keeping watering down is always good. It's good for both. You don't have to do as much work, but also out here we have a well, so water for all intents and purposes, is free for us, but still it's a tax on the well every time it has to go on and the pump works, and then if we need water in the house at the same time. So anything you can do to reduce the water ring is good. So I'm hoping that I should probably not plant anything for maybe some low growing things with small root structure, and then next year something bigger, because you got to let it settle and kind of, you know, start doing its process. The other beneficial part is that the soil is warmer faster, because with the decomposition going on, that creates heat. And you know, you can plant maybe a little earlier, because the plant's roots, you know, they want the soil to be, usually it seems like across the board 50 degrees is the minimum for most of the plants, especially like edible plants. You know, that's not true for everything, but I'm just pointing that out. So that's cool. So that's the stuff we've done on the farm. Used to be a lot more blackberries back here, and we've really beaten them back. They're not native and they're invasive, and you know, while I can you know, appreciate a little blackberry pie or some jam, you know, we had, you know, a forest of blackberry that was taking over. So if you can kind of see in the corner over there, a foundation of an old barn, this was all blackberries, and so it's all stubble now. And what I found with the blackberries is if you just keep on it, you know, it just retreats. So it's probably take another year or two of fighting, but we're reclaiming a little bit of property to use for something else. You can see piles of, you know, blackberry bramble. This was all blackberries, and so we're just going to keep beating it back to the stream, which you can't see but runs right back through here, and then stop, because it's, you know, I'm just going to let the forest be the forest. This foundation here is in the borders of this is where I'm going to build the wood shop, aka barn. So it's going to be 24 feet, which is a little less than what this outlined border is, by 32 feet long, which is going to be perfect size for me, I think, and what we do around here. Yeah, so that's what we've been doing. My compost bin's over there. A little frisbee golf action. This is a what was it called? Flaming something maple tree. What is it? Oh, Pacific Sunset. So it gets about 30 feet tall when it's full grown, and has big leaves that turn fiery red, orange in the fall, which we're excited about, you know, seeing in 30 years. A lot of stuff is a patience game, but you know, that's the fun of it, especially if you think you're gonna die here, which I have a feeling we will, probably with a long to-do list. No doubt. Yeah, so that's what we've been doing. I fixed my house this summer. Just go over here. This fence is to keep the goats from, they like to like chew on the paint on the side of the house, so we put this fence up. And we were gonna put potted plants along here, along the wall, that they can't reach with their little grubbing mouths. But you can see this big white board here is on the side of the house. I had to replace what is called a sill beam, and that's this beam underneath here is a big 6-inch by 6-inch beam. So I had to jack the house up and put a whole new beam in there because the other one was eaten by carpenter ants. A lot of it was, not all of it, but I just replaced the whole thing because that made sense. And then I'll put this little new board up here. So it was a lot of work this year, but it was rewarding. And yeah, so that's the tour of what's been going on. Take a peek.